This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thanks for letting me do this for so long. Sometimes Pokemon feels like cheating. It often isn't, and Game Freak do make some kind of effort to keep their game reasonably balanced, but sometimes they struggle to extend the effort to the moves themselves. There are moves so disgustingly overpowered that they've been banned from competitive play, nerfed into oblivion, or left players questioning if Game Freak even knows what balance means. We're talking about moves so ridiculous they practically play the game for you, turning strategy into a formality and leaving your opponent wondering why they even bothered showing up. You shouldn't be winning a battle with the click of one button, and yet here we are, talking about Pokemon moves that are just too damn strong for their own good. Game Freak can't keep getting away with it. Does anybody remember Unknown? It's okay if you don't, because it wasn't here for the most recent generation and it's only kind of in Gen 7, and it never really went anywhere as a gimmick Pokemon. It was the alphabet, it was just the alphabet as 26 different variations, 28 different variations of the same Pokemon, with genuinely terrible stats, and it only knows one move. That move is Hidden Power. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that because Unknown is such a crap Pokemon that, you know, surely Hidden Power is also a terrible move, but actually, it's just really weird. It's a 60 base power special move, and its type changes based on your Pokemon's IVs, and all that means is that you can decide exactly what type you want this move to be, meaning that Pokemon could get very good coverage against its counters. You'd have Pokemon like Jolteon who are pretty strong but they've got a limited moveset, and it would run Hidden Power Ice, which kind of perfectly counters its main counters Landorus, Therian, and Gliscor. It very quickly became a necessity in competitive play, and you can kind of expect Hidden Power to be on everything, because with just this one move that, by the way, every Pokemon can learn, you can completely change type matchups and reverse counterplay. So you'd have like Heatran using Hidden Power Ice or Grass on like Landorus and Swampert. Gengar was great with Hidden Power Fire because it could then do with Scizor. Zapdos used to have Hidden Power Ice that would just destroy the dragons it can't really touch. It was so powerful because it was so versatile, and it could be whatever kind of move you wanted to be. Game Freak removed it in Gen 8 probably because it was just really strong and really overpowered, and they didn't replace it as such. But Terrestrialization pretty much replaces it. You can change type midway through the battle and use Terra Blast to use a strong attack of that type, so you get the same kind of vibe, but the main difference is that it costs a lot more to do. You can only Terrestrialize one Pokemon per battle, and your opponent knows it's coming most of the time. Hidden Power has no obvious tell, and there's no real preparation you can do other than just assume that certain Pokemon are running certain Hidden Power types. Now we live in this terrestrialization world, Hidden Power is somewhat missed because the Pokemon that used to use it so well are less viable afterwards, but I feel like terrestrialization is more fair, so ultimately I feel like it's a net gain. And Unknown is still hot garbage, so that's fine with me. We're going to move on to something a little less gimmicky but no less unique, because Scold is a move that is just problematic all the way through. On the face of it, it's kind of okay. It's an 80 base power, 100% accurate water move, so it's, you know, fairly decent as an attacking option, but the main problem is that it has a 30% chance to burn, which is way too high for a move that strong. You should realize the way that Pokemon works is that when you see percentage chances, when it's in your favor, 70% means 0%, and for your opponent, 30% means 100% against you. So you might roll up to a battle with your physically based team and have it just demolished so quickly because someone is just really happily using Scold and burning all your hopes and dreams. Because Burn, as a status condition, halves attack and deals chip damage every time. The fact that it halves attack is honestly so brutal because it doesn't really have an equivalent in other status conditions. Paralysis halves speed, but at least you can still hit hard. Poison doesn't lower stats at all, but deals chip damage that can ramp up over time if it's badly poisoned. Sleep is really annoying, and it shuts a Pokemon down, but you will eventually wake up to whatever the fuck is left of the battle. And yet Burn permanently ruins a physical attacker unless you have some way of curing it or being immune to it. That's before you even think about water as a type, which is unbelievably good defensively. Most water types up until very recently knew Scald, so you could just run this on anything defensive and have a great time. Water has just two weaknesses, electric and grass, and you're not always going to see Pokemon that run those attacking moves. So you're likely hitting water types for neutral damage, which is now really fucking useless because now you're burned by Scald. If you're trying to damage a bulky water type with a burned physical attacker, like it's never going to work for you. You're just going to be there forever. It made Pokemon like Toxapex, Suicune, Gastrodon, really bulky water types. If you ran Scald on these, you're disgusting, and I hate you. But not too much, because we now live in 2025, where Scald has been nerfed into the ground. It's pretty much exclusive to Volcanion, who isn't all that good, and you've now got water types relying on alternatives like Chilling Water, which crucially doesn't burn anything. I kind of see what Game Freak were doing here. I kind of like the idea of one type of move then inflicting the status from another type of move, but I feel like this kind of skirts around the issue that maybe water type moves need their own battle effect. You know, electric, fire and ice moves paralyze, burn and freeze, so maybe water needs something for like defense. Maybe it can halve the defense or the special defense. I don't know what you'd call it, like waterlogged, drowned. Is that too depressing? I don't want to drown something in Pokemon, that's really sad. Being burned in Pokemon may be terrible, but at the end of the day, it's only a percentage chance on Scald. Scald is its own move, it is an attacking move, where the secondary effect is that sometimes it will just randomly burn things, and I feel like that's not balanced, but it's a little bit more balanced than how Sleep works in Pokemon. Sleep is just the catch-all, generally disruptive thing to do to a team. It is good versus physical attackers, special attackers, bulky walls, support mons, literally anything doesn't want to be put to sleep unless it's got an ability that helps it somehow. Your Pokemon is pretty much useless for 1 to 3 turns, but the way they balance it in Pokemon is that most sleep moves are unreliable. You've got Sing, Hypnosis, Grass Whistle, Sleep Powder, they've all got less than 75% accuracy, and most of those are way lower than that. Spore has 100% accuracy, and if you don't see the problem with that, don't worry, I'll go into a lot of detail on that. Spore has 0 drawbacks to using it and is guaranteed to hit under normal circumstances where accuracy hasn't been fucked around with. And I'll tell you something, Sleep has been powerful before, but Spore made Sleep so strong that it helped to popularize the Sleep Clause, where only one Pokemon is allowed to be asleep at any one time in competitive play. Pokemon wasn't designed with this in mind, they just kind of threw this out there and thought, it's fine, it'll solve itself. Just put the whole fucking team to sleep, we don't care. And honestly, without Sleep Clause, Spore would make the game unplayable. Like, what the fuck do you do when your whole team is asleep? Spore is so powerful and so good that it made entire Pokemon kind of viable, really. Amoonguss is a wonderful little mushroom boy who is everywhere in competitive play because he's super bulky, he can take hits, he has other really good moves like Rage Power and Pollen Puff, he's great in singles, he's great in doubles, he uses Spore so very consistently and is absolutely everywhere in everyone's team and has been for like, I don't know, 5 years now? Breloom is also quite good because he's faster than most bulky Pokemon, so he can put them to sleep kind of really quickly with his Spore. Parasect is famously absolutely terrible. He hasn't been used very often, but he has had Spore since Gen 1. He used to have a niche, it was taken away from him, he's now worse than useless, but even he can use Spore. Toedscruel is really interesting because it's proof that Spore is way too strong on a fast Pokemon. All the other ones I've mentioned, kinda slow. You can kinda get ahead of the game and knock them out early. But Toedscruel has 110 base speed, so it outspeeds tons of Pokemon. In theory, it could be faster than most things in the game and put them to sleep before they can even make a move. That's why Game Freak gave it Mycelium Might that makes status moves go last. Which is just Game Freak's way of admitting that they had to nerf Spore for Toedscruel and only Toedscruel because a fast Spore Pokemon is just obscene. The one upside, and it's a tiny upside, is that it's only on grass Pokemon. Grass Pokemon aren't amazing defensively, they have loads of weaknesses, and in general, users of Spore are really slow, so you need to try to knock them out before they even get a chance to put you to sleep. But oh my god, if you give them a chance, you're just gonna have a really, really shitty day. And I play Pokemon to have fun, so I don't want that. I cannot, and I refuse to talk about overpowered moves without mentioning Z moves, because they were kind of overpowered by design. There was supposed to be a one-time nuke where the challenge was finding the perfect time to use it. You can press one button and probably knock whatever's in front of you out, but if you are not quite prepared, or if your opponent knows and can see it coming, they can just switch to something that can take the hit better. But Z moves in general were just ridiculously disgusting. They even found some use for Splash. It always makes me laugh when people talk about how useless Splash is in Pokemon. You slap a Z Crystal on there and you use Z Splash, and it boosts your attack stat by 3 stages. Magikarp's gonna slap the shit out of you, I swear to God. Some of the best were exclusive Z moves. You had Clangorous Soul Blaze, which was Como-O's Z move. It hits everything in front of it and then boosts all of its stats, so you're set up for the rest of the battle. You get a move and then a guaranteed Omni boost, which is just... no, that's not fair. Stoked Spark Surfer was a Alolan Raichu. It did massive damage and guaranteed paralysis, which is dumb as fuck. Genesis Supernova, which is Muse, did huge damage and summons Psychic Terrain, so you can do even more damage after. But honestly, the worst is obviously Extreme Evoboost, which is Eevee's Z move, and I can't even show you because there's like a stupid copyright thing with it where it was used in a trailer, and now if I show you the full animation, I can't do anything with this video, basically. But it's fine, we got time, let's unpack why it's the dumbest thing in the world. It does no damage, but is somehow way more broken than any move I've talked about thus far, and it's not even close. Extreme Evo Boost boosts every stat by +2, which is effectively like doubling every stat at once. You're using 6 setup moves at once, and that's... what the fuck? I need you to realize that +2 in every stat makes basically any Pokemon terrifying. It doesn't really matter. You could slap this shit on Unknown and it would be horrifying. It is Eevee's signature Z move, and specifically Eevee. You evolve this into Jolteon or Umbreon and it's not going to be doing the same thing. Eevee has 55 in every stat, which is not scary at all, but with +2 in every stat, Eevee is now fast, bulky, and powerful. Which is nice, but it is just an Eevee, though. It has bad attacking moves, it has low HP, it has no reliable recovery. Like, it's going to cause you a problem or two, but it's not going to ruin the game for you. So at this point, I want you to acknowledge that Extreme Evo Boost is funny, but not exactly game-breaking. It's funny to see Eevee do this funny, cursed... I can't show the animation, but it's here somewhere, it's blurry. Eevee does this song and dance and is now... like a legendary Pokemon, which is terrible, but it's not completely unmanageable. However, Pokemon also has the move Baton Pass, which means that you can pass these boosts to anybody else in your team. If you run Eevee with a Focus Sash so it lives at least 1 hit, you can then boost it up and then Baton Pass it to anything more powerful than an Eevee, and there's several Pokemon more powerful than Eevee. In competitive play, this was insta-banned for being ridiculous, and mind you, so was Baton Pass and has been for years, but you need to realise that you would have to have the perfect counter for this, otherwise there's literally 0 counters. In the world that Pokemon designed, this is something that can be in a game. The people at Game Freak, they designed a game where you can have a +2 boost in everything and then pass it to everything, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. No one cares. You should care. Thankfully, it was just restricted to 1 generation and will likely never come back. Although I say that, Clangorous Soul Blaze, Como-O's like slightly less ridiculous Z move, it was reworked in Scarlet and Violet to boost all stats at the cost of some HP. So maybe, Extreme Evo Boost could come back if it came with a similar cost. Honestly, it's just really funny to see Eevee turned into the most powerful Pokemon in the game. Like, it's not in any way, but it kind of made me smile. If you were to unpack it, setup moves have the potential to be the most broken moves in Pokemon because of what they allow Pokemon to become. Evo Boost turns Eevee from a weak first stage Pokemon into something incredibly powerful, but it's kind of balanced on its own because Eevee's not that strong. So a setup move on a stronger Pokemon would be really stupid and unnecessary. Imagine if Game Freak did that. Oh, imagine, right? Anyway, so the Fairy type debuted in Pokemon X and Y as Game Freak tried to balance the Dragon type. It was too strong, it's been too strong for a while, we gotta knock it down a peg. They kinda made Fairy too strong. It's really, really powerful and it has only a few weaknesses to types that don't often attack. The Fairy type needed some strong Pokemon to make it worth using, so there were some new Fairy type Pokemon and also older Pokemon that were given the Fairy type, like Gardevoir, Mawile and Azumarill. Also, There was a new legendary that has really good stats, and that's fine. It also has a signature stat boosting move. Why would you do that? You were so close. Geomancy is the single worst thing that Game Freak has ever done for game balance, and possibly ever. I know like they made some bad looking trees before. I reckon Geomancy might be worse. It's a 2-turn move that gives +2 to every stat that Xerneas cares about. It's special attack, special defense, and speed. It's like 2 quiver dances, but even stronger. The logic behind it being somewhat balanced is that it is a 2-turn move. You charge up on turn 1 and then you receive the boost on the second. And 2-turn moves aren't great since you're doing nothing for 1 whole turn. As it was designed, Geomancy is actually terrible because you're not doing anything for 2 whole turns, and that's just a waste of everyone's time. However, like Extreme Evo Boost, there's always a little asterisk, because in that case it was Baton Pass, in Geomancy's case it's the Power Herb item, which skips the second charging turn and lets you get +2 in the important stats in 1 turn. Since Fairy was so strong and had so few weaknesses, Xerneas with a Geomancy boost was unstoppable. There's no other way of putting it. It took over the highest level of competitive play basically overnight, and if you had no counter, you'd just lose. Turn 1, you use Geomancy, the Power Herb activates, and you get an instant +2 in the stats you care about. Turn 2, you click Moonblast, which is a really strong fairy type move, and delete anything in front of you that you want gone. If something was in front of you that resisted fairy, then you had coverage options like Thunder and Focus Blast. It would help cover your weaknesses like Steel, and at the end of the day, you're the fastest, fattest, most powerful thing on the field. You can afford to take a few risks and probably be okay. The massive difference between this and Extreme Evo Boost is that Geomancy is attached to an already really powerful legendary with a great typing. And I think Game Freak realised this because Xerneas was left behind for Scarlet and Violet. Which is a really interesting decision, because I think it was most likely to avoid any further dramas while using Power Herb Geomancy with Terror types. Just think about that for a second. People like harp on about Shedinja having a Terror type and oh no, you got to figure out what type it is to do super effective damage. Imagine having a team that is designed to counter a Xerneas, except you don't know what type it will be. Oh my fucking Jesus. It was hard enough in Generation 6, 7, and 8 to have a Pokemon that could counter a legendary fairy type Pokemon that could get +2 in the stats that it cares about. Imagine if you had to do that again, but Xerneas could be any type in the game. Would just be the most unfun time of your life, I reckon. Xerneas may one day return, but surely not without some serious reworks to Geomancy. Although that depends how dedicated Game Freak are to game balance, and the way that power creep's going and just new Pokemon being more powerful than the last, I don't hold out much hope. And yeah, those are the most broken moves in all of Pokemon. Is there something I forgot about? Should there be a different move at number 1? Let me know in a comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more, and hit that bell for notifications of new uploads. The last video I made was about games coming out this year, so make sure you go watch that. And I also want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including Lima Pro, Sarah Malion, and the Green Scorpion. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.